Welcome to Down and Out but Statistically Average podcast. We are two friends here turning our coping mechanisms into content, one episode at a time. Welcome to episode 10. For my friend here, Nate, he's a Rangers loyalist, obviously, there. And we're going to be talking about the Texas Rangers here starting up. I'm Connor. I'm a lifelong Notre Dame football fanatic. Getting our hopes up every season over here in Irish World. But before we do that, we're going to talk about the Rangers, we're going to talk about the Irish, and really just get into both of these teams. Now, we're in an interesting point in time with both of these teams as the Rangers are in the throes of the season with some ups and some downs, and I know that my friend here is going to talk about that here in a little bit. But in terms of the Irish world, I did a live stream last week and really discussed and went into a lot of the nuanced things going on in the Irish world. From the spring game to recruiting, so if you want to check that out and see more up-to-date content on Irish World, go check that out. So that was a good, shameless plugs here for this live stream, the Notre Dame solo show. So Nate, before we get into the Irish World and then kick into your Rangers, I see you got your coffee. I see you're prepared. You're Rangered out. You got the hat, the jersey, man. You're just really representing the fan base. Yeah, so you actually got your outfit right this time. Yeah, yeah. What up, man? It's Saturday morning. How you feeling? Okay, all right. Well, we're gonna be hearing about that. So, before we get into that, I'm gonna quickly just kind of pivot here, and there's an interesting conversation. I want to get your feedback a little bit too. In the broader college football world, okay? So there's a lot of expansion talks of the playoffs. Right now, we have a 12-team playoff. Before that, we had a 4-team playoff. Before that, we had the BCS system, which was just the top two teams play. So now we're in this new realm. We're going into the second year of the 12-team playoff. It's not a fully proved concept. And we've got a bunch of different talks from the players at B, the big hitters, Greg Sankey's of the SEC, and the commissioner of the Big Ten, and all the commissioners of these conferences, and the 80s of the big schools, talking about expanding this college football playoff to 24 teams. Ooh. I, mm. So here, I'm going to go on a little spiel, give some data, and I want to get your reaction. So right now, the Big Ten, which is the biggest conference in the Midwest, they are pushing hard for this 24-team college football playoff model. While the SEC, the Southeastern Conference, they're a little more divided. They've shown interest in the smaller model, the 12, maybe 16, but they have not showed any interest in this 24-team model. The reason I bring this up is because, well, this affects my team, the Fighting Irish, but it also affects college football at large, and I'm actually not going to take Notre Dame's side on this one. So the Irish AD Pete Pavakwa, he's been pushing and is in favor. Pavakwa, yeah, good old Petey boy. So he is in favor of the 24-team college football playoff, and here's the reason why a lot of teams support this, why they're all pushing this. The more playoff games means more TV games. That leads into more TV revenue. The current college football media deal with ESPN is really, really big. There's a lot of revenue there. So I just muted myself. It's reportedly worth $7.8 billion over the next 6 seasons. It's a lot of money, right? 1.3 billion annually. And if you create more playoff games, then that's going to be a broader base of capital to pull from, more than the 7.8 billion over 6 seasons. So you're looking for an expansion capital. All these schools kind of benefit from it. Now, the reason Pete is pushing it for the Irish is a couple things. Is we actually have our own TV deal with NBC, so we don't pull from external TV revenue really, like ESPN and all these other conferences and things like that. But what it does is it secures our independence. So it would secure us not having to join a conference, because if you open it up, if we were to lose if lose two games like we did this year, we're pretty much in if it's a 12-team playoff. You wouldn't really keep us out. Whereas, if you keep this 12 team and you have that two losses, as we learned this last year, you may not get in. It's not in your hands. So the incentives for the Irish is, well, this solidifies our independence. We don't have to join a conference. We have control over our own destiny in terms of who we want to play, when we want to play them, things like that. But from a national perspective, well, correct. Yeah. Well, to me, the dark side is this: is that it kind of ruins the regular season for college football. What what college football is notorious for is that every Saturday matters. Every single game is important. So, and you know this in our conversations, like if you lose one game, it's a big deal. Whereas in baseball, as we've talked about, and you've kind of really got me up to speed on, is like you can lose 10 in a row and still turn things around. There's like that long sort of there's the longevity in the season, whereas for college football, every game has a stake in it, and that's the draw of the sport. Really, one of the biggest draws of the sport is that every single Saturday is contentious. So that sort of like heightened awareness of the games mattering, that to me is like part of the pageantry of college football. And that's why I love the sport. That's one of the biggest reasons why I love the sport is every single game matters, and you feel that in the crowd energy. If you go to any games, like I've been to Florida games, I've been to Notre Dame games. Like if you go to these games in person, you feel it because if you lose, it's a big deal. So that to me is really really important in terms of like the quality of the sport. So that's the dark side of it. Yep. Yes. It could. Well, that's the thing is they haven't figured that out and they're already discussing the changes. So, like it could cut the season shorter from like maybe 12 games to what it is now to 10 games, which I'm also not a fan of. But also, not even just that, like let's say you pass this 2014 model. Well, what if you're that 25th team, you got 3 losses, but then like there's just it, they're trying to solve the unsolvable problem of, well, we can't leave somebody out because there was us this year that got left out. But in past years, you had Florida State. I think it was like 4 years ago. They had a undefeated record, but they lost their quarterback right before the playoff system, the 14 playoff. They got left out because of that reason. Yeah, so the subjectivity, they're trying to solve the subjectivity problem, but to me, it's unsolvable because the sport didn't start like the NFL did, where they had a structured playoff system. You had these clear conferences, divisions, and it all kind of logically made sense. Whereas college football was just patchwork. It was a grassroots thing, and the infrastructure's not there. Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see how the underlying problem of this a massive sports equivalent of high school clicks is going away. It seems like it's just kind of diluting the effectiveness and the allure that the sport still attains, even with
Well,
the whole clicky nature of it.
yeah, 100%. Well, the thing is like, this is the thing is you have what the people want, and then this is like the common trope of life. You have what the people want, and then you have what the people in power want. So the people in power, the ADs, the conference commissioners, they want, generally speaking, except for Greg Sankey and the SEC, who I agree with, they don't want they most of them want the expansion because again, it means more TV revenue for their schools. It affects their bottom line. They're not thinking about the love of the sport as much. They're looking at it from a business aspect because college is a business. The game really is a business at the end of the day. And so they're looking at, okay, well, how can we maximize our profit? And so that's the way to maximize your profit is expansion of the playoff. The bottom line grows. But the sport also kind of takes a hit in that you'll, I think you'll lose some fandom if you do that. Like it's kind of like a push and pull. If you do it, well, you're gonna cheapen the kind of importance of the season, and that's why there's been over 100 years of draw to the sport and in complete devotion. But at the same time, like if you do expand it, then you make more money. So it's like it's kind of these push and pulls with these ADs, and a lot of people are starting to speak out about it in terms of whether it's just lay fans or to me, it's actually also not just this. cheapening of the season. The other part of it is that it is more risky for the players. So these kids, if you think about it, a lot of them, like, this is their biggest opportunity in life to make something of themselves, to try to make the NFL. At least for, even if they can't make it for their whole careers, they at least make the roster for a couple years and make some really, really good money. And they set themselves up for success. And if you expand it to a 24 team playoff and these kids are playing like 20 plus games a year, that's a lot of wear and tear. If you do like an aggregate over like 4 years, like let's say you're on a good team and you play 4, 5, 6 additional games every year, you're going to enter the league with more wear and tear, and i.e. have either a shorter or non-existent NFL career where it could have been something, or at least the minimum you could have had a couple good years. But it's a dangerous sport. There's a lot of hits you take, and so you go through that beating, and you add more games on the front end in college, then your NFL career can suffer. And to me, that's actually kind of a travesty, because imagine, you take that opportunity away inadvertently, but they're probably not thinking of it from the AD's perspective, but they're looking at the bottom line, but then the players could potentially suffer. And so to me, it's kind of that two-prong approach where I disagree. Even though our athletic director is pushing it, I do disagree with him in that, look, you should be pushing, in my mind, a 12-team or 16-team. If you do want to expand it a little more, 16-team I think is a good compromise between the two. So that's where I stand with it. I disagree with Notre Dame's position, but I want to see the sport thrive overall. And so, Irish fan here, not a fan of where our line of thinking is, but I understand why it's there, because you're trying to push what's best for your team in terms of solidifying your independence. But at the end of the day, hey, what can you say? This is the reality of the world today,
It certainly is, and the ugly reality, especially with sports, is that, well, sports exist. Guess why? To make money. They are revenue engines, just like any company or any organization, aside from the non-profits. It's really out there. It is absolutely for profit. So the commissioner of MLB baseball. Guess what his job is? His job is, a lot of people characterize it this way, even in official capacities will characterize it like this. His job is to make the owners money. That's why he exists. It is not about preserving the sanctity of baseball or making better rules or making people happier or attracting more. No, it's whatever makes more money. Sometimes that means actually making people a lot more upset, which they do very, very often. So, and I'm sure there's the equivalents, that's just one example that I know from MLB, because I don't know. But the reality is, this is not, this is a business, and this is a world that we are living in someone else's realm. And we're saying that, we'd like to have a democratic system, but the reality is, no, this is absolutely, at best, it's an oligarchy, if not something a heck of a lot worse. So sorry guys, but we have not yet reached that point where fans are in control of Jackery.
And well,
as much as we try.
That's why we make these podcasts, and we put our narrative out there and see if something catches.
Exactly, dude. Amen to this. Amen. I love
the powers in the voice. Yeah. All right. So, well, listen, that's all I got in terms of the college football world, the Notre Dame world. There's really, again, I cover the recruiting in that live. If you guys want to check that out. Quick mention for you, Nate, just so you're aware, we've been absolutely on a tear recruiting. We just got 2 5-star players, which, as I mentioned, those are the top of the line. David Folorencio, 5-star defensive lineman, defensive tackle. It's the last 5-star defensive tackle we've gotten in probably 15 years. We never get those guys. And then we got a 5-star offensive lineman, and I'm going to abbreviate his name because it's super long, but his name is Olulabola. Try to say that 4 times. Olulabola. 5-star offensive lineman, just adding to the plethora of trench football, a line-based program. That's exciting. And it's the first time I think we've gotten 2 5-stars in, it's been a minute. I have to get the exact statistic and look it up, but it's been a minute. So recruiting is on a heater. Marcus Freeman is on the mound. So
he's known for his recruiting. Sounds like he's taking after Saban type stuff there too, especially in lieu of being aggressive in the recruiting. And thankfully, Notre Dame, even in the absence of membership of the conference, they have an excellent reputation just in general, being a school you would want to go to and or play for. So I'm not necessarily, I can't say I'm necessarily
can't disagree with that.
That they're, that they're still pulling some high quality folks, especially since, hey, they should have, aside from the technicalities involved, gotten into the playoffs last year and then went to the championship the year before. So,
yep.
Good things are coming, man. I like
Good things are coming. We're building. Well, listen, with my baseball analogy aside, let's actually get into some real baseball here and talk about those Texas Rangers. Now, a quick touch point for people listening. I know that last time me and Nate talked, the Rangers were, well, this was 2 podcasts ago. They were really in the spring, they were looking really good and their hitting was really on point, and they weren't, hitting big home runs or anything crazy, one here and there, but they were really just getting on base, and that was the strategy. Now we're getting into the point where there's been some ups and downs in the season, as I understand. Take it away from there. What's going on in Rangers world this last month?
Yeah, no, overall, where do you even start? I need to record these a little bit more efficiently. My thing is, this is the way I characterized it to a good friend of mine, actually, just a little bit earlier this morning. We are maddeningly and aggressively mediocre. Again. So I think we're 24 and 26 right now. So we're just sub 500. We're in the AL. What is it? The AL West, I think, is our division. I don't even care. I just care. So the division that we're in, we've got people like the Angels and the Athletics and the Astros in it, and the Mariners, and all of us are just kind of like, we're all somehow within just a few games of each other. So the entire division is still very much up for grabs, which is a little bit weird for the division. But we're at 24 and 26, and the key thing that you'll see is, again, I'm just seeing more and more and more all the time, a repeat of 2025 and 2024, which is our pitching is extraordinary. So if you recall, Connor, last year, our starting pitching was elite, top tier. But then our bullpen kept blowing stuff. So it was like later in the games, like the 6th through the 9th innings is when stuff would be lost. It's not the script has flipped now, but our starting pitching has started to come more down to earth. We're still top 5 in ERA in the entire MLB, which is great. But what's happened is we've had a lot more shaky starting pitchers, like our younger guys, our wonderkins that are supposed to be the next big guys that we're trying to give a lot more mound time to. People like Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter, people that make my behind pucker every time I see them pitching, as opposed to someone really, 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 really good like Nate Uvalde or like Jacob deGrom or like Mackenzie Gore, who is somebody that we acquired for the off-season. When one of them is pitching, then I feel a little bit better, and our bullpen has been locking it down this year. So we almost entirely revamped our bullpen. We've since, I don't know what happened to our 2 closer guys that were blowing stuff left and right. It was Chris Martin and Robert Garcia. I haven't seen them in a hot minute. I think we might have gotten rid of them. Maybe not. I don't know. I hope so. Because ever since, the people we've brought up or traded for, just after the season started, have been top tier. All that goes to say, pitching is doing great. But, again, we can't hit. The only reason we are this close to 500 is because our pitching is limiting batting averages against us. It's keeping other bats silent. It's not because our bats are any good. Now, it's not to say that we haven't had some more higher scoring game. I'm not saying every single game has been like a 0-1 or a 2-1 kind of game. But if one of our starting pitchers, Jack Leiters, Mar Rockers, or whatever is going on, if they make just one mistake, our offense is so poor that it will cost us a game, and it regularly does, even in games that we absolutely should have won. I'm very glad to say that several days ago, there was a situation in which we were down by multiple runs going into the 9th inning at an away game. And then we strung together, I think it was 4 different hits in the 9th inning to do a comeback win, which we then won the game by 1 point. I think we won it by like 5-4.
Let's go.
We've never had a late game comeback kind of situation. We've had like we get him. But all in all, it's not that we aren't making contact with the bat. And it's not even that we're necessarily striking out way more than we should be. It's that our walk rate is consistently too low. It's that we pop up constantly. You'll hear the Rangers commentators, Dave Raymond and Mike Bass, commenting on this, and David Murphy on occasion, commenting on it constantly. How do these guys keep popping up constantly? You keep getting under the ball. No, just put the ball in play. Just put it in play. However, you're going to have issues when some of your key hitters, right now, we've got Corey Seager, Wyatt Langford, and Josh Smith, some of the brightest sparks in our offense in the past 3 years. We've got all three of them on the 10-day injured list. I personally suspect that they put Corey Seager on the 10-day injured list, not because he was necessarily injured, but because he was going like 0 for 32 in terms of his last at bats. I can't.
Oh wow.
Or maybe it was 0 for 20 something. He was in this massive, like month long, hasn't gotten a single hit slump, and he's like our front guy. Like he's the guy on all the posters and right. He's the guy that is getting paid the big bucks, and everybody keeps saying, "Oh yeah, Corey always goes through this big slump." Okay, the season started 2 months ago. We are 50 games into the year. You can't tell me that that's a slow start. That's called sucking, and to an extraordinary degree. Now, what I do appreciate is that Jock Peterson, who is still very much not worth what he's being paid, he's actually around a 200 batting average. Yeah, he's actually better than his .06 batting average of last season. So he's helping a little bit more. Ezekiel Duran. This guy, you ever have one of those people, maybe you have something similar in college football, where you have somebody that just kind of like bounces between, what is it, like Division II and Division I, or somebody that's sent back and like called up, or like does that happen? Do guys get called up and stuff in college football, or that's not really how it works?
So now that you have the transfer portal, you don't have them going up and down a lot of the times, but a lot of times the bigger teams, they poach from the smaller teams, but bring them up, and they actually, sometimes they work out as really good players, but a lot of the times they work out as a good, serviceable player that's solid, because they're used to that lower level competition, they come up, and they're talented, but they were under-recruited and they got plucked up. Yeah, but and essentially it does happen, but just they don't go up and down.
Okay, all right. Well, the thing is so I can't really make an equivalency to college
You're welcome.
football, but in any case, yeah. So if guys aren't doing particularly well, or if they're not really cut out, or consistent enough for have it written into the contract, then they might bounce between, okay, you get called up from the minors whenever there's a professional big boy that gets hurt or something like that. That has been Ezekiel Duran for us ever since I think 2024, if not a little bit sooner. It's just you see him around and he fills in a lot of different positions, but he bounces between the minors, between AAA and MLB pretty constantly. And yet, right now, he's one of our best hitters. He's hitting over 300 right now in terms of batting average. And he's right up there with the big boys, such as a resurgence by another young guy, Josh Young, who's been struggling a lot over the last couple of years, just very, very streaky, very, very strikeouty. So it's Josh Young, it's Ezekiel Duran, and it's Jake Berger. Hitting smash burgers constantly. Jake Berger, who's up there with 9 home runs already and 33 RBIs, hitting 305 through thus far in May. So people that I definitely wouldn't have pegged as doing particularly well, they are. Here's the thing. It's not that we're not getting hits. And it's not even necessarily the pop-ups thing that I mentioned. It's that we aren't stringing them together well at all. We're moving somewhat on the bases. Walk rate really needs some improvement even now. So could the strikeout rate. But we're getting hits. We're out hitting teams regularly in these games. We absolutely are. It's just they're not resulting in runs. Like right now, I think we're sitting at 28 out of 30 teams in the MLB in terms of runs scored thus far this season. 28. We are third from worst in the entire MLB in terms of number of runs we've actually been able to score. But our hitting and our hitting rates, it's at least mid-tier. But our actual results are bottom tier.
So you're getting on base, but you're not getting home.
We're getting
Long
on
story
base,
short.
and we're doing better. I like what I'm seeing in terms of walks, and yeah, we could hit more home runs. There's plenty of things that I wish were better, but ultimately, I genuinely think that it's just this rotation of injury-prone people like Corey Seager. He's just every time you touch him, he falls over and sprains something. And just in general, I know that's the nature of the business, but overall, people keep getting hurt. And then we've got a new manager this year, Skip Schumacher, and generally, I like the bolder moves he's made in terms of like roster changes and losing Marcus Simeon and dumping Adolis Garcia and Jonah Heim. Like I love them, but they needed to go. And where I'm going with it is Skip Schumacher. I appreciate that he's trying out different things, but I would really, really appreciate a sooner interpretation and a sooner example of what am I trying to say? I really want to see a little bit of consistency. Just maybe stick with a lineup, like a batting lineup, for more than a couple of days and see if people actually can settle into a rhythm. I want to see a little bit more stability among some of these younger guys. So stop trying to drastically change things and then go, oh, that seemed to work. I would really like a little bit more slow, steady progression to actually firm up how the lineup interacts with each other and then focus on some team chemistry.
So,
Anyway.
would you say that this is kind of more of a strategy thing? Like, it doesn't sound like a talent gap. I mean, maybe there's a person here and there or a position here and there, but what is what's the core problem here to where you guys can't flip your play to where you're converting? You know, you're getting on bases, you're getting hits. You said you're probably mid tier, maybe even who knows, even a little higher. We'd have to look up the stats, but why are you guys on the lower end when it comes to actually converting and getting home and getting to home plate? Like, what is preventing you guys from getting to that point of getting to home plate? What is it?
I It's such an excellent question, and it's why I have to rant about this verbally and be a verbal processor about all this, because I don't think it's just anyone. I would love to believe that this
What
is some
combination
sort
of
of
things? What combination of
I
things?
would love to believe that this is somehow Steve Schumacher and Chris Young that are secretly doing an incredible managerial job, just keeping this team afloat on a tightened budget, or that they're doing some sort of secret master play to get, some top picks in the next offseason. I'd like to believe that this is just a rebuilding year, but it's just a whole lot of flounder. So personally, I something's wrong with how we're teaching our hitters to hit. And there's also something consistently wrong with how the lineup is getting constructed because it's just inconsistent. We just had a game just a few days ago where we won 10-0. Like, you're not gonna do that against really anybody if you're absolutely awful. But you see, the way that we're actually able to pull off high run games is not about content; it's about stringing them together. So find people that can put the ball in play. I don't care how, and then work on their individual side by side chemistry. Okay, these three guys in sequence work well together. Let's start putting them more together, and let's find opportunities to have them work better together, whether it's on or off the field or a little bit of both. Because I feel like it's a lot more every man for himself right now in the lineup. Everybody's just worried about getting cut or getting rotated out, and everybody feels on thin ice, and or is getting injured. So that's at least my go-to take on where we're at with hitting. It's there, but I think that there's a lack of consistency, there's a lack of chemistry, and then we need some. The bats are there. We can absolutely pull this off, but we need a better hitting coach. We need a stabilized lineup construction just to try it out, just for a little while, and then some more plate discipline as always. And never
Okay,
hurts to up that water.
for sure. Well, I guess let me narrow this in. So for if you're put into Skip Schumacher's place, let's say one nade away, you're in that position. All right, you get to make the decisions. What's some of the first things practically that you would do to maybe start to change the tide on this? You may not have all the answers. I don't expect that, but like, what are some of those things that can change the tide or begin to start to change your direction a little bit that you would implement if you were in his position? Give
I'd
me a couple
still
things.
I'd still DFA Jock Peterson. I would send Carter back down to the minors. I'm sorry. I love him. Great guy. He's terrible at plate and hitting work. So there's a couple other folks that feel more like dead weight. I'd rather replace them. And then I'd find some opportunity to do a top tier trade for one of our better starters to get some great high on base percentage, consistent hit leaders. Ideally, some righties, since we have too many lefties in the line. So I would trade somebody, one of our good starters. Yeah, somebody like Gore or maybe even Nate Evo. Trade them, use that as a great bargaining piece to get some better hitters in this lineup. We just need a lineup that across the board from the leadoff spot through the 9 spot, there is no, oh, these 3 guys, okay, we can put in a bad reliever and it'll get through because these guys can't hit for nothing. No, everybody, oh, dude, they all have different strengths and they all get on base. I don't care how. But we have lineups that go like, okay, yeah, and then it just goes off a cliff, and then the 9 spot will kind of come up, but then, which is why we have a record that goes like this. It's just, okay, sometimes the guys in the leadoff spots are just really feeling it. But sometimes you need the 4, 5, and 6 spot guys to pull some more weight. And they're not. And they're just not. So
the record of this is reflective of really the lineup and just the team's flow of this. Like they're correlative.
You asked what I would do. That's what I would do. But if you're Skip Schumacher, I'm put in his shoes, and I'm required to keep people that I have. I would really like to see. Maybe this is just against baseball philosophy, but I would really like to see what would happen if you just kept the lineup where it is. Just try keeping the lineup stable, just not changing it around a ton. Whenever you or rather having one lineup for a starting right-handed pitcher and then another lineup for a starting left-handed pitcher, and just use those 2 lineups, period, for a couple of weeks, and see if that actually lends some stability to a lot of these younger guys that are on our team. We're not populated by a bunch of, late 30s hitters. We've got a lot of 20-year-olds and stuff like that in this lineup. And sometimes with younger folks, they just need a little bit more of a routine to actually get into a groove up, and then they can actually make something happen. So that's where I would start.
Okay, I get that. It's funny that you mentioned, I was going to ask if you guys had a younger team, because usually when you have those talented teams, at least from college football perspective, this was how Notre Dame was last year. Super young, starting a lot of freshmen, sophomore, juniors, but super talented. And with that immaturity came stupid mistakes, inconsistencies, lack of focus, in your case, if you were to transpose this to the Rangers, lack of play discipline and consistency in hitting. So I think from a strategic perspective, and this is just my thoughts on the Rangers, if you have these younger guys, you have to then make an assumption that there's going to be some immaturities or inconsistencies. So you need to provide a framework and a foundation that is really consistent for them, so they can, even if they don't get it right away, but they can work into a groove, and you kind of guide the ship that way. Is that a fair take on that?
Yeah, there's been a lot. I know that we're in a season of transition, and in a lot of ways, this could be viewed as a rebuilding year. But my philosophy right now at this point with the Texas Rangers is just either crap or get off the pot. Just do something drastic that's going to make these games more enjoyable to watch, more consistent, whether in a good or a bad way. Just make it more entertaining, or either be good or be bad. Stop being mediocre, because I'm really, really tired of being lukewarm about this team that I'm so passionate about.
I get that. No, I get that. When we had Brian Kelly as our head coach, my personal feelings on him.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
But when he was our coach, we just always towed that line of, got good players, but we're playing mediocre. We shouldn't be playing this way. And as a fan, you're just like, it just burns inside of you. You're like, we have so much more potential that's not being tapped. And that's the way I sense, and I don't sense the visceralness maybe, but I sense from the Ranger fan base coming from you, is that like there's this potential and it just needs to be tapped. And it's not.
There's some other level that for one reason or another, we just aren't willing to go to. And I don't know why.
Why?
We are not a bad team. We are not. We're just aggressively mediocre. So, I don't know. Maybe Connor, you can pop in on a couple of Rangers games upcoming, and you can let me know from an outsider's perspective maybe you'll pick up on something brand new, because maybe you never know. Maybe there's a research analyst at the Texas Rangers out there that's going to end up watching this, who is actually just searching around for ideas because they're just as lost. They're just like, we don't have any more idea than anybody else of why we can't more consistently out-hit these other teams that are terrible. We almost lost a series to the Rockies this week. We pulled a rabbit out of a hat to win,
Yeah,
but we
it's not
almost
good.
lost to the Rockies.
But didn't you guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you beat the Yankees recently?
Yeah. But then, we've also lost to the Astros, the Athletics. We've lost every single series to them up to this point.
What?
The Mariners are doing terrible, and yet we're very aggressively mediocre against them. The Dodgers, we held our own against them a month or so ago. We still lost the series, but still a 2-1 split, 3-game series, and we
You
still
beat them. I mean,
absolutely it was not. We have the stuff, but I just don't understand what's going to be the electric current that's actually going to catalyze. I don't understand how we got to the one-hit wonder 2023 Rangers, and then
yeah.
ever since it's now approaching the 3-year mark since that time. How did we immediately and ever since go from the best offense in baseball to literally third from worst in baseball for 3 years straight, immediately following winning the World Series? Tell me how that makes sense.
It doesn't.
Explain this to me.
It just does. That's the part that's so confusing because like I've gone back and watched that 2023 team, and I watched the final game, and like they had this. It's a really cliche corporate term. I hate it, but there's no other word to describe it when you see it. Synergy. Okay, like it's just they had that connection that just they knew how to play off of one another. They trusted in one another. They just had that dynamic team. It's the best way to put it. And I don't see that. I mean, I watched that one game with you recently. I didn't see that just kind of dynamicness, you know?
There was this kind of team cohesion. Everyone seemed to be on the same page.
And there was a want to. There was a want to. Yeah, exactly.
And it was like that the entire 2023 season, too. And again, I still don't understand. Even going into 2024, we deliberately didn't trade really anybody from our 2023 winning team. But then 2024, from 2023 all the way up until today, 2024 was our worst season out of all of them. 2025, we were better than 2024. 2026, we were better than 2024. So we immediately went great, but it was the same team, same people. It was the same lineups and rosters, and not a whole lot changed. And some things that were tweaked actually got better. So I don't know where the chemistry dropped off. And I don't even know if there is such a position in baseball as, I'm the coach for team synergy or something. That sounds super gay. I don't even know what that would be. But if there is, I would really appreciate it if Chris Young could go and hire somebody for that. If you're going to be spending all this money on people like Corey Seager, then find some people that are actually going to teach all these guys, hey, this is how you work well together.
I'll tell you who it is. The head coach.
Oh.
The head coach is the person who's in charge of that.
Skip Schumacher doesn't strike me as somebody who's fun to be around or work with. He seems very, very businesslike, or just very cut and dry and straight and to the point. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is him. But
well, we bring this up a lot because it's a leader and a figure that you and I both understand and researched. Is Nick Saban and his teams at Alabama? Yeah, we're bringing him up again. But like, when you think of him, he had this process, and it doesn't matter who, like what players came in, and actually college football is much more fluid in a sense than MLB. You got these freshmen coming in, then people graduate, and it's always this revolving door. So he had this like consistent process of never focusing on the results, but it was focusing on, if you don't do your job in this very thing, you would be let it be known, and there was consequences. Now, it's probably a little bit more easy to discipline and kind of do that to college kids and treat them in a certain sense in terms of like that level of discipline. But the concept of what I'm talking about, when you have a team like the Rangers, where it's like there's just this inconsistency and there's this lack of team chemistry, which I know that we've talked about that in past podcasts about last year, and it's carried over into this year, even with some major changes. So it seems like there's a deeper root here that hasn't been dug up yet.
It could absolutely be the case. And maybe I need to do a little bit more closer observation, more deeper research into Skip and how he's running the club. But Skip definitely just from, he seems, I know he knows his stuff, but I don't think he understands the team and the base that it comes from, what it actually represents. I don't know if he actually is kind of coach that embodies team spirit. And he definitely doesn't strike me as a guy that has a go-to process. He seems a whole lot more, we're going to fly by the seat of our pants and mix things up a little bit constantly and see, just throwing stuff against a wall.
See what sticks.
I'm kind of tired of it, which is why I'm saying, maybe you're digging down to the root of this. You heard me saying stuff like, just keep this lineup, David. But maybe that's exactly what I'm trying to say, which is, give me a process. Yeah, do you have a process? If so, why aren't you applying it consistently? If not, why haven't you? Why are you just focused on the results? The results will come. They will show up. Don't worry about the results. Worry about getting there and doing so consistently. Because if you can get the process down consistently, then you will get consistent results. If you just try to address the symptoms, then you're not addressing the rotting core, whatever it is.
Well, and here's the thing to go even deeper. One of the things, and this is a thing in college football, and I want to learn this about the Rangers, and it really comes from a fan perspective. One of the things I truly believe in with sports is that the fan base and the history behind the team plays much more of a vital role within the current organization and what's presently going on than maybe some coaches and ADs or managers actually kind of realize. Like, the history behind your program feeds into what's going on. So from a fan perspective, like, I'll give you an example from Notre Dame. Like, you have this rich tradition in history, and you have these certain sets of tradition. Like, you have to go to, a lot of students go to the grotto and they go and pray there, or they walk around the lake, and there's a certain differentiation between what Notre Dame is and what it represents compared to other college football teams. There's certain standards they don't compromise on. Kids have to go to class. They don't do online classes. And there's these certain sets of values and traditions that have gone on for years, and they're deep-seated, and they are in the fabric of the psychology of the place. And that's why people are drawn to it and love it, because there's a tradition. Now, that's speaking for...
But there's also an organizational philosophy and identity.
Well, and that's the thing. So, like, from the baseball perspective, and that sort of back leading into this question is really, what is that for the Rangers? I mean, I know a little bit about how, like, for years and years you guys got so close and had the door just slammed on you as a fan base. So, like, are there kind of things there that are playing into this? Like, does it almost like feel like you're going back into the old Rangers a little bit? Like, you broke through the ceiling and you're kind of... there's that, because that comes with emotions as a fan base, and then that bleeds into the players, even if they don't realize it.
That's an excellent question. I'm going to try to be as concise as I can, because that's got so much that I could say about.
1,000 things popping through your head.
And stuff there too,
but you see why it matters. 1,000 things go in your head.
Absolutely, it does. And that's man. First of all, I really hope that this hasn't yet happened. It really needs to happen. I really hope someone has asked that exact question to people like Steve Schumacher. And if they haven't, they absolutely need to very, very soon. Yes, that is absolutely spot on. Where I go with, okay, so Texas, there's a lot of pride about Texas in general, okay? Where everything's bigger in Texas, yeehaw, just whatever. But usually our go-to sports are going to be more things like football. Everybody knows, and it's our established sport and team would be, most people would probably say, like the Dallas Cowboys, okay? Like, you're not really going to say things like hockey, Dallas Stars, or the Mavericks, for basketball, or the Texas Rangers or Astros. It's going to be more like football, whether it's A&M and the Longhorns and Texas Tech and people like, it's going to be college football and NFL. Like, that's how it works, and the Texans and all. However, with our baseball, it's not that it's a niche market. Again, Texas is a very big place, so there's a very, very substantially sized Texas Rangers fan base, and it's extremely loyal. But I would say that the Texas Rangers' identity is, we are hard to dislike in a lot of different ways. There are people like let me give you some examples. So there are the bigger ticket teams. Some of them are some of the most hated teams in all of sports. People like the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Dodgers and people like that. That just and the Phillies and just everyone in the world, whether sports and non-sports, just hates them. Just in general, either because they're good, or because they were good, or they're just tired of hearing about them, or just because they're just traditional to hate. And then there's other backwater teams that are never thought about or never really do anything really ever, like the Miami Marlins or Miami Marlins. Like, it's the closest team to me, but they're terrible, and they're just kind of like that. That's like the slow cousin that you have. It's just like, oh, dude, you're doing great, and I'm really excited, and I love to go and spend time with you, but we all know you're not going to be front of the pack at any given point. So the Texas Rangers, it's not that they've always been mid-tier, it's that we have a ton of very southern and very intrastate pride. And we're not prone to things like scandals or anything like that. We're very straightforward and clean cut. We don't have very explosive type things, but we really, really, really love the core essence of our sport. We're very, very much more purists about how the game is played. We don't like upsets in the rules or people playing dirty or, oh, dude, it's why everyone hates the Houston Astros and the whole, I will never forgive them for the sign stealing stuff that they pulled in 2017. I'm never going to get over that now. That absolutely tarnished the reputation of all Texas. So screw you, Astros. But overall, so our identity is rooted in, okay, we've got a long history. We've never had a tremendously high budget for baseball because Texas Rangers aren't like the number one type of sports team in the area. That would be the Cowboys, and the Cowboys have one of the most expensive stadiums ever built. So the money for sports is going places like football. So we have a lower budget for baseball, but we've got a very devout and consistent fan base that has been around much, much before we had any sort of actual winning, much less winning of World Series. So you've got a very consistent and stable fan base that is very, very anti-scandal and pro-process.
Well,
So just wants a little bit more results.
And if I may interrupt and keep going after this,
go for it.
hence the name Texas Ranger Loyalist that you sent me to put to our script when we start. Like that makes much more sense. But I digress. Keep going.
Right. No, it's the same thing. Is that whether it's winning or losing, our fan base doesn't really balloon when we're winning and then control. Like there's a lot of teams that in like big cities and stuff, like if the Marlins started getting good, their fan base would absolutely explode.
It would be packed.
Because it's easier to root for winning teams.
Of course.
I would absolutely contend that Texas Rangers, of course, every team works that way to an extent, right? Like people want to root for winners, right? But we aren't quite nearly as elastic. We don't have people that are just fair weather fans, not nearly as much. We love you look at any given point, ever since we opened our new stadium, it was like 2020, 2021, the stadium on any given day of the week is almost full. It's in Arlington, too. It's not in some sort of special place and usually playing at different times of the year than the Cowboys and such. They're always showing up. My parents go consistently, even just to watch us Rangers lose sometimes. We just enjoy the sport for the sake of it. Again, we're purists. We are loyalists. We love our team. We love the sport itself, even if it doesn't work out, which is why I do this podcast as well. But, man, we had a taste of what it was like to be really, really good. And that taste was so good that we are never going to let Schumacher or Young or whoever the super old owner is right now. We are never going to let you guys ever do the end of it. Because you gave us a taste of the good life, and we don't want to have to go back to those decades and decades. No. Sorry.
So you don't want to go back to it, but I'm going to present the reality. Because of the last couple of years, I'm not saying you're fully back, but does it almost feel like there's a pent-up, like, apprehension and just like, oh, no, we can't go back? I mean, 2023 was a pinnacle. We're in the good life. We're in 2026, man. I'm just giving you the facts. What do you think?
Yeah, and I kind of hate you a little bit for it, but it's because you're absolutely right. I read a headline the other day that said, I think it was actually the title of a YouTube video that I refused to click on. It was something about 2023 Rangers were a one-hit wonder team. And that really that
stings.
That does hurt.
That's a stinger.
It does. I'm really, really tired. It's not that I necessarily even want our team to be a dynasty. I just going from such obscurity, like 2023 we win. 2021, 2 years earlier, we lost over 100 games.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, which is way worse than we've been in the last 3 years. That's like losing over 100 games is bottom.
Yeah. Overall. Wow, I didn't realize that.
And then 2 years later, we win the World Series. But then every single year since, we haven't even made it. We were a one-hit wonder. I just want a little bit better, a little bit more consistent playoff contention so that it's a little bit more exciting as the season progresses. Because you know what really bums me out for the last couple of years? getting to the point where end of August is rolling around, and I realize, aside from a miracle, there's no reason.
Speak into your mic. Speak into your mic.
Yeah. And I realize once I get to late August that, statistically, there's no way we're getting to the playoffs. So what's the point in watching the rest of the games in September? I want to have that zeal, that motivation. I want to have the heart. Enough of a whole heart instead of a broken one. I want to have the heart remaining to at least follow through to the end of the season. Just stop petering out. Like, I'd almost wish that we were tremendously good, and then we folded like a cheap suit. Like, that'd be one thing. At least you could get my hopes up. But doing this, and then you just hit a wall with the playoff. That's we've been doing that for 2 straight years now.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of tired of that. I just give me something to believe in. We want to believe.
Well, Rangers team psychologist, please hear this podcast and maybe get some ideas from a man here. He needs a lifeline.
Yep.
Listen, for the Rangers nations and Ranger loyalists here, I respect the fan base. I truly mean that. Just learning and hearing that, I get it now. I get it much more, like where you guys come from. I know that as a fan, like I know what that is like to like just be constantly not winning and just being the laughing stock of the sport, or not even a thought within the sport. I get that. And then having a massive turnaround and then disappointing the next year. Similar trope in our experience, not quite to the same level, but similar trope in essence. So I get that, man. And look, all reality aside and pushing the hard stuff on you. Listen, you guys got to turn it around, and we are gonna be along for the ride this season. That's why we're here. You're down and out. You're a little statistically average, but like we're gonna get you better. All right, come on, make it happen, Ranger Nation. We need y'all. We need y'all to play.
We're close. It's just gotta click.
It's gotta click. Well, good stuff, man. Good stuff. Any final thoughts, final takes? You go first, and I'll give my final take for Irish Nation here.
Give me something to rant and rave about, either good or bad. That's all I gotta say. That's where I'll wrap it up, man. What about you? What you got to say about Notre Dame?
Well, final take here is Irish fans. We are in the throes of the off season where there is really, and outside of this last recruiting week, there's nothing. We're on pins and needles waiting for the summer to pass and just to get into the season. All right, here's the deal, Irish Nation. This team's gonna be exciting. I've said that before, and one of the things that I've been doing is rewatching an old, unrelated LSU versus Clemson championship game back in 2019-2020. Watching Joe Burrow and his command of that team. And this is a stretch, and this is all, blue and gold colored glasses I'm wearing. I really, really hope that we kind of have a similar type team. Not quite. That was a historic offense LSU had in that year. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Like, those guys were special, but I think we have a chance to be a very dynamic down-the-field passing offense this year. So that's a narrative-changing year hopefully coming up for us, because we are a run-first team and we are old-school Midwest, but so was LSU before that year. They were pound-the-ball defense. We've been that for the last 10 years. I think this year is a bit of a narrative switch because of C.J. Carr and Mylan Graham and Quincy Porter, Jaden Greathouse. All of these names that we have, it's just putting it out and putting that product on the field. I think we got a big year coming up. And, hopefully we're not down and out statistically average. That's the hopes here. So, Irish Nation, that's what's up.
All I
Take
gotta
it
say to figure it out is, regardless of what happens with the Rangers, at least we got some awesome things to look forward to.
Yes.
I'm super excited for the season to start there.
It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a fun season. All right, guys. Well, really appreciate you joining for the Down and Out and Statistically Average podcast. From my friend Nate over here and his Texas Rangers loyalists that are listening to the cast, thank you for joining in. I'm Connor, lifelong Notre Dame football fanatic. Thank you, Irish fans, for joining, and we will see you next time on the Down and Out but Statistically Average podcast. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.